Good evening and welcome to Los Fumar Takes. This is our 365th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to get deep into the minds of our guests tonight, because they experience that on a daily basis. But we're so glad that they're here. But before we get to formal introductions of our guests of honor tonight, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is brought to you by Drew Estate. Since its birth on the factory floor, Undercrown has always represented the spirit of the underdog. The newest extension of the Undercrown family sees the familiar underdog spirit extend past Nicaragua to the fields of the Dominican Republic to create an all-new Undercrown experience. Undercrown El Tigre Dominicano is a defining new chapter for the Undercrown story, one deeply rooted in the Dominican Republic. For the first time, Undercrown embraces a Dominican filler forward expression with the elegant and rich Dominican filler tobaccos in full spotlight. At the core of El Tigre is a beautiful pairing of Dominican HVA and C98 leaves, tobaccos selected specifically for their balance, structure, and aromatic depth. Together, they build a layered, expressive base of flavors easily enjoyed by any fan of premium cigars. Check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today to sample the all-new Undercrown El Tigre Dominicano from Drew Estate. And welcome, everybody. This is our 365th take. We're so excited for you to be here tonight. If you are watching us live on Facebook, like we tend to broadcast almost every Sunday night at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, or checking us out on YouTube later. Our video broadcast is always courtesy of our friends at Foundation Cigars. Nick Melillo is a well-known cigar maker in the premium cigar industry. He began his career in the cigar industry at the age of 18, working in a cigar shop, the Calabash Shop, in his home state of Connecticut. He went on to work for a well-known cigar company, Drew Estate, we just talked about them, where he developed some of the most popular blends. In 2015, he started Foundation Cigars to create a unique and flavorful experience that would appeal from everyone, from the novice to the most experienced smoker. Check out foundationscigars.com today for more information. If you are tuning on to us later via audio broadcast, via a podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you download, subscribe, and review. Our audio broadcast is always courtesy of our friends at Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. Thanks to our good friends at Gran Habano. And welcome, everybody. This is our 365th take. That's right. We've done a take for every day of the year. You can go back to the very beginning, and you will have a full year of takes. How about that? Every single day. So let's welcome in tonight's guests, brought to you by United Cigar. Smoke one today and start living united. We have Misters Garrison Davis and Jack Heyer of Davidoff, Geneva, and AVO Cigars. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Fired up.
Doing amazing.
We're fired up, Bear.
Fired up. Fantastic. Ready to get deep in the mind and the souls of you guys. You know, not that y'all do that on a daily basis, as you guys were talking about before. So
Nice. That's why Bears are the best in the biz. Just brings it all together. You know, Bear, I was looking it up because I was like, when was the first time I was on the show? And it was the 56th take.
Right.
So we almost have a 300 episode like reunion going on right now.
I always go back to this because I remember calling you. I got your number from Eric Gatorpson, our mutual friend, and everything. That's when you were back in your Cigar Dojo days. And I remember calling you, and I was like, "Hey, I'd like you to be a guest on the show." And I don't know if it was surprise or genuine awe. You're like, me? Like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, man. And man, that was one of my favorite shows at the time, and it's a classic to go back to. It's hilarious. It's great.
It's a beautiful full circle moment because your podcast was the first podcast that I ever appeared on, and Garrison, my protege, this is his first like official podcast. So this is a full circle moment.
It's like a full Darth Vader moment for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Garrison is dead. I am what remains.
We'll be dropping all the pop psychology references today.
Yes,
100%.
So, well, let's get things started with official business. I love the full circle moment. It's fantastic. Garrison, as a first time guest, Jack's done this a couple of times for me. But I have a little thing here that I do on the show that my audience is well aware of, that I ask my guests to pick my cigar. And so I dove back into my humidor. I wanted some tonight. I know and I really guys appreciate you guys being on. Everything that's on me for last minute asking for some of the new Expresivos, which we're going to get into tonight. So I appreciate the effort. I'm sorry that you guys went to all that effort for nothing. They didn't make it in time, but I was able to find some gems in my humidor, 6-year-old boxes of each of these cigars, and I think you'll enjoy some of these choices. So, um, I have the Avo Synchro Fagata Robusto.
Okay.
I have an Avo Exo Intermezzo in the tubo,
Okay. One of the most
and
popular ever.
I have this still makes me cry every time I mean I bought a
Yeah.
shit ton of these when I found out they were being discontinued. It was a very sad day, but I still have a ton of them. It's fantastic because I can go back and reach in and almost always have one. But I have the Avo Domain 50th
Ooh.
as well here too. So don't want to make that to dissuade your choice tonight, but whatever you pick,
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and smoke. So it's up to you.
Are you smoking multiple tonight, or are you only going to smoke?
Oh, Jackie is a newbie, isn't he? Yes, there's going to be multiple cigars tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to start with the domain, man. I can't. There's no way I could let you smoke a core release when there's a domain sitting on the table with a relatively fresh palate, depending on if you've already smoked today or not. You got to rip the domain.
Fantastic. I will absolutely do it with pleasure. It's tremendous. So, well, thank you for that, Garrison. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to chat with you today about a lot of different things, and Jack coming along for the ride. It's so awesome to have you both. And so let's kind of get into it. Let's dive into tonight's major point, which is brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. From the fertile lands of Honduras, George Rico and his family have brought together the very best vintages for you. Yeah, you, cigar smoker. From value-based hits like Corojo Number 5 to award-winning 20th anniversary to special projects like Zulu Zulu, Gran Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium handcrafted Gran Habano cigars. Um, I do have to note that I am going to be, I mean, we're going to go full all fancy tonight because I am going to be lighting this domain with my ST DuPont monogram
Ooh,
lighter. Yes, the biggie with that gorgeous flat flame. Go toast that little foot and let the amazing aroma of the domain fill the room for a few moments and everything. So, well, Garrison, I know we've had Jack on a few times, so I thought we'd take the moment to get to know you a little bit. And
yeah,
I know we're chatting a little bit before the camera started rolling and stuff, and know you're from from North Carolina and everything. So just what was your first experience with the cigar? Like, how did this all come together for you?
yeah, yeah. Pre 18, I think, as some people don't like to talk about the illegality of smoking underage, but that was probably my first dabble, just trying to be a little bad kid. When you're around 15 or 16 years old and you convince an adult or somebody to buy you some Swisher Streets or whatever kind of crap is behind the drugstore counter. You don't even know what you're doing and that you're not supposed to inhale it. That was probably my first physical interaction with it. Outside of that, it's premium tobacco's kind of had a stored history in my family. So I mean, it goes back to really my grandfather's days. I used to sneak a peek in his humidor and kind of wonder what was in there. He was also a pipe smoker, so it was pretty frequent whenever we would visit him. Whenever I would hug him or just be around in his house, you could have that sweet aroma in the air. And so it was kind of always a part of our family growing up. As most people, whenever you celebrate any type of milestone, graduated high school or college or brought in a new year, there was usually a cigar there to accompany you into that moment. So that was where my first interactions with it came around. I just never thought that I'd have the opportunity to work in the industry, man. So that part's been absolutely amazing. But tobacco's been there for quite a long time now.
So I think it's kind of interesting. We were talking a little bit about our partners' professions before the show started and everything, but I was doing just kind of a little bit of research tonight too, man, and we got to talk a little bit about your educational background too. So UNC Pembroke,
Mm.
smart, smaller school in the UNC system and everything, but okay, so we're gonna get to like these little stops along the way. We have a political
Yeah,
science major with a terrorism studies minor.
yeah, yeah.
Goes into
Different path, man.
financial
Yeah,
services, and then the kid in the candy store happens, and you get to be in the premium cigar industry. So,
yeah.
um, I mean, it's fairly obvious why you left the other the other industries. for the
You
cigar
defeated
industry.
terrorism. That's what
Yeah.
it
Exactly. We won 9/11. Exactly.
was. We won. It's over.
Um, no, you gotta take me back to. I mean, first of all, how does one study terrorism studies? Like, what went
Yeah,
into
man.
all
So
that?
that was all that was kind of formulated in. I grew up in a military town there in North Carolina, like you mentioned, right outside of Fort Bragg, which is, for those who don't know, it's one of the biggest military bases in the country. And so it's really the city itself really only exists because of the military base that's there. So from a young age, being born and raised there, I always thought that was attractive to me, was being in the military, being enlisted. And then kind of when you get older, you realize, well, I don't really want to be enlisted if I'm going to make it a career out of it. I would like to get a commission and hopefully be an officer and not have to work for a living and still get a paycheck, that kind of thing. So I did the whole JROTC thing in high school, and then college came up, and actually right out of high school graduation, I enlisted in the Air Force Reserves to go ahead and kind of get my foot in the door, get exposure to it, get enlisted, and see how I like the lifestyle. And then I was doing the whole ROTC thing in college. So I was kind of trying to pair those two things up. So what intelligence where I thought I was headed in the military, and so it was, okay, get a political science degree. That way you understand governmental systems. And then just the program or the school that I chose to go to there at Pembroke still has a pretty deep affiliation with the military base that's only about an hour and a half away from campus. And so they had a terrorism studies minor through their criminal justice department, which is really what it was more oriented towards, was like law enforcement, domestic terrorism kind of thing. So that was immediately attractive to me, man. And it was, honestly, I think I might have enjoyed the minor more than I enjoyed my major. Just the type of exposure you're getting to, whether it was
Can't
taking a
imagine
class really
why. I
specifically.
mean, the name is more interesting. I mean,
Exactly.
alone. So yeah.
But you really get to get inside the mind of some of these, like, these crazy bastards that did this wild stuff, man, and kind of what can influence people and how people can kind of get caught up in radicalism and just the history of how that's evolved over the last couple of decades. So it was definitely interesting, man. I met some really cool professors that had decades of experience, whether it was law enforcement or military law enforcement or just regular military, and their exposure to kind of their experiences around the world. So it was a really cool chapter, man. And I graduated, and I don't know, it was kind of one of those turning points in the road where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. This isn't like really fulfilling much for me. So that's when I kind of pivoted towards the financial services track, and
Like
that's that fork in the road.
early and beyond, before we get to that real quick, just early on when you were like, you know, in the reserves and you poli sci terrorism studies was part of the, the criminal justice department stuff. Like, was there ever like a desire to like do the JAG Corps or anything like that? Was like in the back of your head too, or were you more like wanting to do the enforcement side?
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of neither. It was really like I didn't want to do JAG. I wasn't really interested in law, like to that point, and I really didn't even know going into political science how many people use the undergraduate degree as a prerequisite to going on to law school. My intention was to try to move that into something intelligence related in the military career field. So whether it was like State Department avenue or something that was like intelligence gathering, whether it was foreign or domestic, some kind of. So it's like finding what makes people think the way they do. So it was almost like law enforcement, but on a military level. So like you're trying to get inside these people's heads, make them think like, what's an opportune target? Why do they want to target something like this? You kind of learn what the definition of terrorism is. What when somebody does a terrorist attack, what type of emotion is it supposed to evoke in the people that are being attacked? That kind of thing. So you're really trying to get ahead of basically the way our law enforcement works now, and even in the military, trying to get ahead of the next attack. So that was something I was interested in, was kind of preemptive, not necessarily law enforcement, but the military side of
Yeah, the
stopping these things
intelligence
before
side
they
of
happen.
things. That's
Yeah.
really that's really interesting. Um, and like what ultimately soured's probably a strong word, but what like ultimately led to knowing that that
Sour's
wasn't
probably
a
pretty
thing.
accurate, actually. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Like what
yeah,
soured
yeah.
you on that?
So this would have been around 2015, 2016, and the Department of Defense was kind of going through this weird transition period in the latter half of like the Obama administration. They were really trying to cut budgets and things like that. And there's like slots that you have to wait on to be able to actually get a commission to graduate on time. And there were some budget cuts that had happened, and it was going to look like I was going to have to basically take a gap year or wait another year to be able to to look at trying to get a commission again. And even then, it wouldn't have been guaranteed. And like I said, I was already enlisted at the time, and unfortunately, the base that I was at was going through also its own separate budget cut issues, and that they were going to close the wing down that was attached to Fort Bragg, which is the Army base that's located there in North Carolina. And so it kind of just put a sour mood on everything, man. Like even when I would do my little weekend warrior, my 1 week a month or my couple of weeks a year, um, everybody was just kind of down and depressed because they didn't really know what their future was because this entire wing could be getting shut down. And so it was kind of like I had done it for a couple of years, and like people will tell you before you sign the contract to go into the military, like, you sure you want to do this? You're signing your life away. Like you understand, like your body no longer belongs to you, and you're like, yeah, man, like I'm cool with that. That's fine. And then you realize once you actually get in there, what that actually means. You truly do not have control over your life anymore. It belongs to the U.S. government, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's standards and there's things that you have to maintain to be a part of the United States Armed Services, and there's plenty of people that are cut out for that. But for me personally, I kind of just got to a point where I was drained of that, mixed in with kind of the instability of where my future was headed at if I decided to kind of stay on this path. It may have taken me states away, or it was just kind of at a weird time where I was looking to have more freedom of choice, to be able to kind of decide something that I related to more personally. So to be honest, man, when I graduated, I was kind of in that point where almost everybody graduates college, and I was like, oh shit, what the hell do I do next? It was like 10 days out from graduation, I'm having like a panic attack in my apartment living room because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing next. And I was like, well, let's go get a job up the street at the bank, right? If you're going to do anything, try to learn something that can teach you tools to help you at least going forward until you kind of figure out what you want to do. So that's when I started in banking and finance, and went on that journey for 6 or so years. But
Well, there's a long history of success from that industry into the cigar industry. I mean, the one that comes to mind right off the top of is Glenn Case. He was in finance,
yeah,
and now he's 20 plus years in the business and created a pretty successful brand too. So that's pretty cool. Um, I want to get two perspectives here. We're going to bring Jack into the conversation. So from the surface, okay, so mind you, just getting to know you here, Garrison, but on the surface, there's a cast of characters inside the Davidoff brand ambassadorship world. We've got Laurie and we've got Tom, and we've got Jack, and that's you know they've got that's a pretty good cast
That's
of
a
characters and everything. So it's
that's a bit of an island of misfit toys, yeah.
yeah. So want to get Jack, I want to get your perspective. So we've got, ex-military, poli-sci, terrorism studies coming in to be the brand ambassador for AVO, and likewise, Garrison, I'd like to get your opinion on these zany cast of characters too. But Jack, I'll let you kind of tee things off. What was that, seeing Garrison come into the fold? Like what were some of the things that stood out?
Well,
Because
it
obviously
actually is
being
so
different.
funny. It's actually so funny how it all kind of came to be. So I was the Camacho brand ambassador, and we had some shuffling around in our department. And they say, hey, we are going to have each brand have its own product manager, which is kind of the in-office, doer for each brand. And then we're going to have each brand have its own brand ambassador. So I got moved into the Camacho in-office role, and they're like, hey, for the foreseeable future, we're going to have you do a little bit of both, and then we're going to look for somebody to be kind of the Camacho brand ambassador. So we had like, okay, this is kind of working. And then concurrently, Law was on the road and he was doing the Xeno tour.
Right.
We knew that the Xeno tour, just kind of based on budget and the vehicle itself, was only going to last like the 2 years. And I was like, well, Law is like kind of the most like Camacho-y person I've ever met, even more than me. Or I'm like, he would be great, but he's still doing the tour. So we kind of came up with the idea that like, all right, this is last year. Well, like we'll bring on somebody to finish the Camacho year, but they're kind of going to be the Avo ambassador in waiting. So like for their first year, they're not going to do a lot of like podcast appearances. And then, at this time it was a big secret, but like, hey, we're going to have a big 2026 for Avo. So we're like, kind of who could that be? At this same time, um, Garrison and I had known each other outside of work and cigars and anything because our spouses were in the same like book club. So
Oh, that's
our
funny.
Garrison and I had known each other, and the story is absolutely hysterical because our my wife and fiance, they were not wives and fiancés back then, but my then fiance, now wife, and Garrison's then girlfriend, now fiance, met at like some sort of gathering, and they're talking, and my wife is like, "Oh, my boyfriend works in cigars," and Garrison's spouse goes, "Well, I don't know anything about cigars, but my boyfriend's brother has a dog named Camacho." And she's like, "You have to be kidding me. Like, you have to be kidding me. That's the exact brand that Jack works for." So she's like, "Yeah, you got to meet this guy." And we had hung out a couple times. We'd gone to like a Rays game. I went to like Garrison's birthday party and housewarmings, and we had just hung out and like bonded over cigars. So we would do cigar stuff and hang out and talk about cigars. And I would bring him a little something. I'd be like, "Ooh, you got to try this. You got to try that." And Garrison's dad currently works at Anstead's in North Carolina, one of our best like appointed merchants.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is such a small world. And we go and we post the job
Your
like,
dad works for Ansteds? We'll get to that, Garrison. I'm sorry. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was like, what a freaking, and I was like, dude, I think I've met your dad. I didn't have Camacho event at Anstead last year. So it's like, what a small world. And I still remember Law and I were down in Honduras, and we had posted like brand ambassador for Davidoff job. And like a week or two had gone by, and I'm kind of talking to some people, and there's just like we would have thought there would have been like day one, 600 people, everybody's perfect. And I just remember kind of Garrison reaching out to me and being like, "Hey, do you think that like I would have a shot?" And I was like, "Dude," I was like, "One, I know the kind of guy you are and what you've done." I'm like, "I think that you have a great shot." And I'm in Honduras, so I don't even get the chance to reach out to our HR guy and let him know, like, "Hey, I know this guy." Garrison's already interviewed with the HR guy, and he's like, "Hey, he's made it on to the next round." So I was like, "Dude, not only do I think you have a shot, like things are going kind of great." And I was in a position where I'm kind of like, "Look, I know this guy. He's great. I don't want it to seem like I'm
Yeah, keep an eye out.
like
Yeah, but
forcing you guys to hire my buddy, but like this wouldn't be the worst thing." And he does all the interviews, does great, and gets in the door. So it was just amazing how it all kind of happened. And just like I always tell people, like, it's the greatest job if you can get it. But there are very few of us where, like, usually if you're a brand ambassador, like the way that we kind of like a lot of people that you talk to, Bear, are they either own the company or they're their fathers own the company, or there's very few of us that get to represent the brand without having to you know create the brand. Like, so for us, it's very rare, and it's the greatest job ever if you can get it. And like, he has one of the most unique paths here out of anybody, and I'm so happy for him, and he's done so amazing since then. But it was like, it just shows that you just kind of got to be at the right place at the right time, and sometimes it's a little bit of luck, and sometimes it's just like, hey, you're at the right place at the right time when things are happening, and you're just willing to say, like, "Hey, I've worked a long time and went to college and was in financial services, and I'm gonna just take that all and I'm gonna ball it up and chuck
Throw
it
it
in the
away.
trash, and we're gonna go sell cigars, baby."
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
it was great how it all kind of came together, and he's been thriving, and we have a big bright we're burning brighter together.
Burning brighter.
It's a little. I mean, it's definitely dissimilar, but fun fact about my not the job I have currently, but the company I worked for before. My brother was actually working for them, and I knew that he had started a new job with a new company, but I wasn't really. I couldn't remember. Like, we really didn't go into too much detail about it, and so I didn't know for a fact that he was where he was necessarily working. But my best friend had been floating my resume around the company for a couple of years and stuff, and I finally got a call one day, got an interview, and go in, like, I made it through the first round. Um, they're like, "Well, other than Chris, my best friend, do you know anybody else?" I'm like, "No, I don't know anyone else, you know." And but I did well enough. We'll go in for an in-person interview, and they're giving me the office tour, and my brother's fucking sitting right there. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I work here." I'm like, They're like, you know each other? Like, we don't have the same last name, so it's not like so it's a little bizarre, but it's just like it was like, yeah, we're related. So it's like it was one of those definitely comical moments. That's cool. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely
100%.
small world, but I mean, Garrison, that had to be really cool for you. I mean, like you said, texting him like, "Hey, do I have a shot?" And you've gone without, any, any pushing from him. Like you've kind of rested,
Yeah.
you've gone on your own accord, your own laurels, and you kind of have made it far, through the interview or partially through the interview process already.
Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
yeah. And I mean, I absolutely have my fiance to thank for it. She actually overheard the conversation at the housewarming party that Jack and his wife had attended. And then we woke up the next morning and she said, I overheard this conversation because he was saying how much he was having to work. He's basically having to work two jobs because he took on the new role and is still doing the previous role. And she said, you don't have a choice. You're applying for this job. And I said, I don't think you know who the fuck Davidoff is. Like, this is that you don't just walk in the
You're just
front
gonna
door and get a
stroll
job at
in.
Davidoff. Yeah. And she's like, I don't care. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And so that's when I was like, well, let me text Jack and see if this even makes any sense. And then thankfully, our HR guy at the time, Peyton, he is also former military. So as soon as he called me, it was like military to military connection. We kind of,
Nice.
over that. And then I tried to write a really convincing cover letter about my family's history of tobacco. And I very much was a consumer beforehand. And one of the main reasons that my fiance had pushed me to apply for the job is because when I was not working or doing my job, financial services related, I was sitting in front of the TV or listening to podcasts of Cigars Daily, of Coop, of everybody else, of all these reviews,
That was
just
cool.
spending my entire free time doing that. I was smoking a ton, really exploring the industry. And she was like, you're literally already spending all of your free time doing this. Why don't you go get paid for it? And so I was lucky enough that I
Fair enough.
had kind of started to jump into that deep end of the pool of really starting to learn and understand tobacco from seed to shop. And so I think I had, while I may not have had the retail in previous industry experience, I was able to come in with enough knowledge to know that I'm taking this serious. And I usually feel pretty confident if I can get an interview with somebody, I can, make enough of a connection and an impression to be able to think that I'm a good representation for your company. So speaking of you running into your brother in the office, that was funny with our first interview that we all had together on the panel. And I'm like, I don't know Jack. Jack's not here. It's like trying to act like we completely just don't know each other at all. But yeah, man, it all worked out. It worked out for the greatest. So I literally feel like the kid in Willy Wonka when he opens the chocolate bar and there's like a golden ticket in there. Like my worst day is like still on top of like the mountaintop of high of getting to do this for a job. So it's
That's
like it's
awesome.
been absolutely incredible, man. I can't ask for anything more. Jack actually told me, but before I was going to accept the job, he was like, "Are you sure you want to work in this industry? Because you'll probably never leave. Like you have to understand like
Yeah.
what you're leaving behind when you join this industry." To me, that was even more be like, absolutely, I want to
Yeah.
join this industry. I want to leave everything behind and
Like
never
you
go back.
can't get out. You
Yeah,
can't.
exactly. So it's been amazing, man. And the first PCA, like I said, this past April. So that was an amazing experience. And every day is a new journey, man. We're excited to get things rolling this year with the new release coming out, and I can't wait to see what every day brings.
That's awesome. So you like you said, you're no stranger to cigars, and so you had probably this impression of Davidoff, right? And you
Yeah,
said you were no stranger to it, and it's a little inside baseball. I've gotten to know these guys over the years, which it's just been fantastic and everything. And it's really funny, like when I first started, when I first started in the industry, and I went through the Davidoff training ambassador program and stuff like that, as a retailer, and when I worked retail and stuff like that, and and not to say that anything in that regard has changed and everything, but a lot of people think of Davidoff, they think of stuffy, and they think of stuffed shirts, and they think of like,
hmm
and everything. And I mean, the guys that you pal around with, to just, for lack of a better term, just because it's coming off the tongue right now, but pal around with, like Jack, Tom, Law, these guys are anything but. And I mean, what was that like, kind of jumping in? I mean, you knew Jack, so you kind of had that purview of, so to speak. But when you got to know like Tom and Law and some of the other folks there and everything,
yeah, yeah.
I think it's completely changed since at least when I first started with Davidoff. I mean, and I'd love to hear your impression of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, our group is rambunctious, man. It's like Barnum and Bailey's. I mean, so and Law, to be honest, Law is probably I don't want to call him out and say he's the craziest, but he's definitely probably one of the, if not the most high energy. He was on tour basically until this past January. So I really
Yeah.
didn't even get that much interaction with Law until I did my, 1 week with him that I went and did the Xeno tour with him. And that was quite an experience. But it was pretty,
I love that he says that so
uh,
calmly, like it was an experience.
that's a whole other show by itself. But it was a lot, man. So it was in a good way. It was very much. I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but it was a little intimidating to come into people that were that have had these kind of very they've got multiple years in the industry doing successful at what they were doing. Law ran his own company where he was doing media. He had his own YouTube channel. Tom has been in the business going back with Jack to Drew Estate for a while. Alex Weghorn, Davidoff ambassador, he is fantastic at his job. He was a general manager at a big shop down here in St. Pete before he got that job. So there was, before I really got to know them, there was a lot of imposter syndrome, a little bit nervous. Can I live up to what these guys are bringing to the table? But within a couple of months, man, once you kind of get comfortable and grow out of your shell a little bit, you take a couple of trips with these guys. It's really such a brotherhood. And there's one thing that I've on my stop along my professional journey where you get these special workplaces where you really form a bond with the people you work with, and no matter how crappy the job is or what you have to go through, you always have those friends you can rely on. And now it's like truly the best of both worlds because you have a job that you love and you also have people that you work with every day that you would consider like brothers, and we all jive with each other like family. We're the only ones that can say certain things to each other without invoking a fist fight. There's like things like that. And then when we go through these really long weekends together, whether it's PCA or whatever it might be, man, that bond just kind of grows stronger. And then it's also, as I've kind of ramped up, Jack mentioned when I first got hired as the Camacho ambassador, we didn't really want to advertise that because that wasn't going to be my permanent role. We always knew it was going to transition to AVO. And so now that since January 1 that I've kind of come full force into AVO, there's been a lot more of these situations put on my plate where now you have to be the face of the brand. You're touring, you're going to these events, you very much are the new face of the brand. And so to be able to have these guys to fall back onto just to pick their brain, or if I need a pick me up speech, or just to kind of see, hey, what can I do better? And I know they always have the best intentions for me, want me to produce the best work. I really couldn't do it without them, man. So what the crew that we have is special. Any of our consumers that I've run into these guys at events, within 5 or 10 minutes, these guys are special, and they hold a dear place in my heart now, and I look forward to our long future together.
That's awesome. Jack, just to kind of get your take on this too, just to kind of go back to the question about like the initial impressions that I think that people might have of Davidoff or anything, and then getting to know you guys, like we joke around, say rambunctious, and we use words like that to describe you guys, but at the same time, like you're all incredibly bright, incredibly passionate individuals, and I know that word gets tossed around a bit, but it's absolutely true. And having a conversation with 15 minutes, 15 minutes long with Garrison, you can tell how excited and passionate he is about the industry, plus his long history and everything. Talk about how that translates in your mind to the consumer, from where you sit. Like, I mean, sure, there's a difference between Davidoff White Label and like say Xeno, Avo, Camacho, and everything, but I mean, it still carries that weight, wouldn't you say? And what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. One, I mean, just working at Davidoff, it was surreal for me, because I had been in and around cigars for a very long time, and when I kind of started on the media side, Davidoff kind of felt like the least like attainable. It was like, man, I have great relationships with a lot of different manufacturers, but like if I get to smoke a Davidoff, like that's a great day. And like I remember when I had an interview with Davidoff, to get this job, and leaving Drew Estate, I was like, Drew Estate is the greatest company. I would not leave unless I could go to like Davidoff, but that's never gonna happen. And then it like just happens. And it was funny because I when I was leaving, somebody got hired at Drew Estate, a sales rep. She was like, man, Drew State's dress code is pretty lax. She's like, you're gonna have to like get suits and wear suits to the office, and that was a thing in like 2012. So I'm like really nervous, and I kind of show up, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is still just a cigar company. This is totally regular and normal, and I don't have to wear an entire suit, and like it's totally fine. And I like, with our approach is that like we don't really do anything differently. It's just positioned different. Like the amount of care and attention that we apply to Davidoff in those same ways is how we, market and create Avo and Camacho and Zeno. It's just maybe the tobacco is had a little bit less age, or maybe it's a little bit less, time in the aging rooms, and it's a lower price point, but like the personality of each brand is represented in the team members that we have, kind of going out and beating the pavement. And, no matter where you kind of are in your cigar journey or how much you're willing to spend on a cigar, we not only have a product for you, but we have someone that can kind of tell that story and is representative of that. And they do it in very different ways. Like Law is like a total people person. He will talk to random strangers that aren't even consumer, cigar people that are walking by, and he'll get them in and they'll smoke cigars. And Alex, is like very like he'll know the pHs of the soil. And when he's talking about Davidoff and kind of Avo is kind of like that middle point where like the Avo consumer is passionate about the tobacco, but also kind of sees and believes the lifestyle and the story. And Garrison does a great job of kind of telling that story too. So it's just wonderful how it's all kind of come together. And it's the only place that I've ever worked where, like, right now it's Sunday night, and every other job I've ever had in my entire life, even in cigars, like Sunday night, I've been like, oh man, I got to wake up and go back to work tomorrow. And still, this is like the place where I'm like, I don't have no Sunday scaries. I'm just so blessed and excited to start the next day and confront the next challenges and see what, problems and weird things are coming up this week.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like you're talking about the mystique of Davidoff, like before you came to the company, because like I know you kind of live this too, because I kind of live vicariously through you guys at Cigar Dojo. Because at the time when I was just getting to know you guys, like that was the first Cigar Dojo Davidoff collaboration, the
Right.
release that you guys did together, and like that was like even I remember talking to Jordan about it, and even Jordan was kind of in a place of like, oh, like I can't believe this is happening kind of thing. And Jordan's a true professional and stuff, but even like there was almost like this infectious kid-like enthusiasm about it. And I was very excited for you guys too at the time. Um and then, fast forward a few years and here you are working for that same company and stuff. And you kind of peel the layers back a little bit. And like you
Yeah.
said, at the end of the day, it's still just a cigar company and everything. To transition into the your role as an ambassador, Garrison, for AVO and everything. This is the PCA this year kind of earmarked as from my perspective, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it just seemed like a ushering in a new era of AVO. The Expresivo, which I know we'll talk about a little greater in detail, is the mechanism I understand, but it's different. You're new. The look was new, the feel was new. There was this kind of reinsurgence of
Aura.
energy and aura and everything. Like, talk about how intentional that was, and if it was, like, what does that mean? What does that look like for AVO consumers today and the new ones that you guys are seeking out?
Yeah. So, I mean, absolutely, you're right. And we try to get some content out there for people that aren't, lucky enough to be able to go to the show to kind of see what we were. And you guys do a great job of that, of our consumers that are on the ground, to see just how much emphasis we put on that brand. And so this year, PCA absolutely was a big spotlight back on that brand. And so it very much is. Obviously, we have to do this very carefully. That the brand is historic and it has a legacy. But at every point, a brand has to evolve into something new, right? And so that's what we're carefully trying to walk the tightrope of doing in a way that still respects where we're coming from and to what we're doing. And so, like you mentioned, the Expresivo blend was the way that we were doing that, and it's centered around this new expression that goes into a different territory that we can go into depth with later. but it also tries to bring back that energy of what people remember Avo being about. And so I think a lot of people in the cigar industry, obviously, almost any type of content you ingest that has somebody who works in the industry loves to talk about brothers of the leaf or sisters of the leaf or how premium tobacco brings us together. And that absolutely is true. And that's a huge focal point of our industry. But I think the one person that was doing that before everybody was saying that was Avo Uvezian. And so the brand itself was born out of the way that not only he preached, but actually who he was as a human being. He was this way personality wise just before he even founded the brand in 1988. He believed in this idea of living life a little bit fuller and always caring about the person beside you, and that moments are better when they're shared. And so he put this into the brand when he created it, and then obviously it exploded in the early 90s. And what we're trying to do is bring back a great product, elevate the product in a way that it deserves and has been lacking for a long time, but also try to bring back through campaign and marketing those ideas that have been there since the beginning that may have been forgotten as we kind of focused on limited editions or we focused on our Synchro series. We want to get back to what made us what we were known for, and that was the moments that you share together and using a cigar as that vessel. And so that's really what we're trying to promote when we go out, when the cigar launches here in a couple of weeks and it's on a shelf date. We'll have an activation that would go around the country, and that'll very much be what I'm trying to promote in those moments is that put the phone down. Let's act like it's 1995 again. Let's just focus on a blend. Let's have good conversations. And even if you don't remember the cigar, remember this moment with that cigar. That's all I care about.
It's an interesting throwback that you say, like, let's go back to the 90s and but while at the same time talking about evolution. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this next question. And Jack, I'd like to get your thoughts as well too. And 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 I want to be careful here. I'm not calling you out in terms of a negative, but you said that every brand has to evolve. And
Yeah.
that caught my attention because my natural question to that is why? If you
Mhm.
talked about Avo's amazing foundation, completely agree with all of your sentiments there. Why does it have to evolve from that?
Yeah. I mean, first thing just off bat is a new consumer, right? And so, very much it's not anywhere I travel and I go across the country, I'll meet plenty of 45, 50s and ups that have met the man himself and have all these cherished memories that are attached to it. But I think it's the new age consumer, and it's obviously that we live in a golden era age of tobacco. And so it's not just the new consumer looking for something that relates to them, but it's also what you're having to compete against for shelf space, for dollars being spent, for people's attention spans. Just because you keep the ship steady the entire time doesn't mean that success is always going to be there all the way throughout. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is this new consumer, not only from a sales perspective, but also from just the survival of our industry as a whole. We have to get new consumers into the industry. So what are they looking for? Whether it's brands that are more authentic, they're not just this usual corporate kind of crap that people are caught up in, mass produced kind of things. More and more now, you see the 25 and unders want a company that they can connect to that they feel is aligned to their values. So it's about kind of reorganizing your branding and your company to make sure it's reflecting those things, which is why I harp on community or conversation, attachment, those kind of things.
Mhm.
And so that's what I kind of mean when we say we have to evolve is that, and also you can't just continue to be stagnant when everybody around you are making fantastic products. So I mean, you can. This is crazy. I don't know at any point in time in history, going back 10 or 15 years, that you could pretty much blindly walk into a humidor, not even see what you're grabbing off the shelf, and you're probably going to pick up a product that's a good product, that's going to smoke well constructed and be a good product. This is what you're competing against. Is constantly a rising tide. And so whether you want to evolve or not, sometimes it's a necessity. You're going to have to kind of come up with a new product, a new idea, something that continues to captivate the minds that are going forward to keep you top of mind of consumers when they're making those choices. So again, it's a delicate slope that you have to walk because again, the first thing that's going to happen is somebody that's been smoking Avo for 20 or 30 years is going to say, you screwed with the blend, you screwed with the company, so on and so on. But it
Right.
very much, we're almost at the 40-year mark. We have to do something to continue to stay at the forefront of the industry. And that's what this looks like.
Jack, he mentioned the word delicate, and it kind of took the words out of my mouth there. As the industry veteran of this panel tonight, between the two of you guys, that's a slippery slope. When we talk about bringing in new consumers into an industry that's, marginalized and polarizing, controversial sometimes, like from your perspective, having worked so many ends at Davidoff and other positions in other companies, like what does that look like, and how do you juggle that challenge without getting lost in the minutia?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a very interesting kind of place in this too, because, standing in kind of both ponds, like with Avo and like Avo was such a beloved figure and the brand is named Avo, it's like Davidoff is named Davidoff because there was a guy named Davidoff, and in Camacho's history, there was a beloved lines and brands and branding. And Davidoff, the company, changed kind of the look and brand and branding of that. And we grew substantially. And a lot of people that used to love the old Camacho say, oh, it changed. And not that that same thing is happening with Avo, but it's like, how do we honor Avo, the man, and keep his essence and his spirit alive in the brand, but also set up Avo the cigars for success in the future. And that's kind of Expresivo is that kind of tipping point, that kicking off point where it's like, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to, you know, try something different in a beautiful way that pays homage to Avo Uvezian and sets the table for kind of our future and hope that our loyal Avo fans smoke and try and see it and feel like that's honoring and accepting, and also that people see it. And it's hard to compete in the era of new. You worked retail. A lot of people that are regulars say, what's new?
Yeah.
And Davidoff, the company, we don't really deal in a lot of new. Like when we release something,
This
it's
was the
not going to
first
be
year that you had like three major new
like
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
like core lines. Yeah, and that's not really our MO, and that's not something that we have done or necessarily want to continually do, because we have a lot of belief in our product. With Avo specifically, there have been brands that have been performing well that we haven't had the tobacco to make perfectly. So we have stopped making for a time or ever, or so, in that same spirit, when we release something, we want to stand by the blend and the brand and the thought and release that so that our retailers have a decent amount of confidence that we're not just replacing one thing with the other. Like, hey, here's this new line. You remember that line 2 years ago? This is replacing that. That's discontinued, but you guys can trust us. Bring in this stuff. It's going to sell and we're going to keep it on your shelf for a long time.
This is gonna sound like I'm coming at you, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but was that why? Because like I think most of us who were like heard the whispers about something coming from Avo, right? There was this expectation of 100th celebration, right? The 100th
Right.
birthday of Avo, right? And it wasn't. It was a complete, like we got a new core line. It's completely different. This is a great time to talk about Expresivo. We'll get into it, so I promise on the next question. But like, was that intentional by you guys? I mean, I don't want to say overlook, like you guys didn't think about it. But was that like, hey, we're pushing forward with this new era, and we're saying, hey, thanks for the memories, but we're not going to do that right now. We're not going to honor the 100th birthday, even though it's saying it's pretty appropriate. We're going
Right.
to push forward with the new era.
I think that that was kind of part of it. It's like, Avo would have been 100 this year. And I think that that would have been an easy thing to do. And Avo's a brand that, is celebrated for limited editions. And certainly if we made X thousand boxes of an Avo 100th, we could have sold the heck out of them. But I think that for Avo's future, was like maybe we celebrate that in a different way by kind of a reimagining and envisioning of the product and the look and the feel, and really make that the focal point. Because I mean, in a year where we released a new core line Davidoff, which hasn't happened in forever, the star of the show or the focus for us was Avo. So, I'd like to think that our retailers and our consumers see that we're, fully invested in Avo and excited about Avo's future. And in no means are we going to ever stop talking about Avo Uvezian, but it's kind of like, we don't necessarily want everything to be expected. It's like it would be easy to bring back the piano humidor and have an Avo 100th, and we could sell it like water. But I think that it's better to release something that's different but feels kind of the same. And if you use like a music kind of analogy, I feel like this is like your favorite band. They have their signature sound and they have their signature kind of, and you're used to hearing their albums come out, and then all of a sudden they have something that sounds a little bit different. And it's like, wow, all right, does everybody like this? Do we like this? This is kind of a change for us. And where does that set us up with? And what is the tour going to look like? What are they still going to play the hits? What's the set list going to look like? Like, what am I expecting from Avo? And I think that our Avo fans and friends and the people that knew Avo, the retailers, are going to really appreciate kind of where we're heading and for the health of the brand itself.
I think mission accomplished, guys. I think like when it comes down to it, like I think Davidoff Dominicano was a fantastic release. I think the cigar stands on its own. And to if you're an outsider looking in, you would have thought that that would have been the spotlight. And I thought Alex did a great job. I thought Davidoff, the company, I think you guys as a whole did a great job spotlighting that. But to your point of what you just said, Jack, like you wanted to make our Avo the star of our star of the show, and it clearly felt that way, and I think that was clearly executed. So let's talk about Expresivo because it was one of my top 5 cigars from the show, smoked from the show. Absolute, I'm a Avo fan. Clearly, talked about my gems from the humidor earlier. Um, and I thought it was a complete veering of the path. However, I think if we're using Camacho as a comparative point, when you guys relaunched, and I know this was before your time and both y'all's time, when y'all relaunched, the bold standard of Camacho and everything, it was a complete veering off, like the what is it, the space-time continuum and Back to the
Right,
Future. I mean, it
right.
was a completely different leg that looked, felt, sounded, tasted, everything was different, right? I mean, with the exception of maybe Triple Maduro, right? Um, but and while there's a lot of difference here with Expressivo, it still had the feel of Avo. The branding's consistent. Is that what we're looking at? We're gonna look at different tastes. We're gonna look at different profiles, uh, kind of branching out in the future, or is there gonna be a new look of Avo too that's gonna be completely different from the past as well?
Well, I'd hate to have a teaser on a coop related podcast, but let's find out together. I think that there's going to be a lot of exciting new things for Avo, and not just in a few weeks, not just in a few weeks when Expressivo hits the shelf. I think that I think our best days are ahead of us for Avo and for a brand that has released time and time again my favorite cigars. It's very exciting to be able to say that and believe it and feel it, and not in we are a giant corporate machine, with offices in Hong Kong and Europe and US, and it just feels like we're delicate is the right word, trying to kind of like when somebody restores a masterpiece painting, and it's like, all right, how do we make sure that we
How do you not fuck it
preserve
up?
yes, how do we make sure that we preserve how this looks, but also make sure that it's fresh and great in the future.
So, Garrison, one of your hot take from the show was that, strong
Oh, I
cigars
knew
are,
this was
are
going to come
dead,
up.
right? And you're a big mild cigar smoker, so you fit into the Davidoff family of brands perfectly in that aspect of your
Yeah,
alliance
right.
aligns with your personal taste. Um, you know, I mean, one could argue that the Avo Expresivo kind of veers from your natural palate range based on your
Yeah,
comments,
yeah, yeah.
But when you first smoked it, being a consumer, for a long time, and being a fan of Avo as well, long before you worked for Davidoff, I mean, what was that experience like, and what were your first opinions of it?
Yeah, it was really eye-opening, man. It's not like anything that I had. ever smoked before in that line. And I mean, I think you could compare it to some other Honduran expressions for those that are familiar with Honduran tobacco, kind of know what the flavor notes of that are. But my first experience smoking it is like, holy shit, when people smoke this thing, this is not, if you think you know AVO or, you know, what this line stands for, I think you're going to have, the goalpost is going to move. But I think the other thing that it really brings into perspective, and this is something that I think new consumers aren't necessarily familiar with, but I also think that some of the more experienced guys can lose over time, is the difference between flavor strength and the strength of the cigar overall. So body and then strength. And so you go back to my hot take comment that I said where I'm not really a fan of stronger cigars, and I think my bigger thing behind that is the industry shift towards wanting to make these deep, oily, really strong, thick Ligero, these blends that are kind of make you lightheaded, and some guys, we should absolutely have that as an option to be able to smoke that if that's the preferred thing. But I don't think that's where tobacco shines at. But I think what Avo gets right is that it plays that beautiful balance. And this kind of harkens back to what we were speaking of previously, where it's like people are going to get concerned that we're trying to evolve this brand. But as you mentioned, when you smoked it, you said that although it was unlike any Avo you have tasted before, you still felt like it smoked like an Avo. And that's the number one thing that we're trying to get across to people is that trust us when we branch into this new territory. It's going to be full bodied. It's going to be unlike anything that you've smoked before, but it's still going to smoke like an Avo. It's going to have that balance. It's going to have that synchronization. It's going to be smooth across it. It should be like a journey from start to finish. So that was kind of the perspective that I got out of it. Now I've had a cool experience as we get the kind of the factory blends ahead of time as they're still rolling them. This is really the first experience that I've got to have with a blend that's really smoking kind of green and then finishes up closer that you get to the shelf date. And so for me, just to get to see that progression of the tobacco resting and aging in the blend as I smoked it from back in December or January to February, to up to the show until now, when it's on shelf in a couple of weeks. I mean, this thing is almost like a rough sea that just becomes like a glass now. I mean, I just can't wait for people to really get their hands on it, to see that it's the way that it's this new era of Avo that goes into Honduras for the first time ever.
Yeah.
It really gives you those expressions of Honduran tobacco. You get the leather, you get that cinnamon kind of spice, but at no point is it overbearing. Is it too much for you to deal with? You have to put it out. If somebody wants to, they could probably smoke it for breakfast in the morning. Not for my palate, but there would be an issue doing that at all. So it really, and that's what we mean when we're saying we're trying to keep that legacy alive and into a new vision. And so I'm super excited, man. I can't wait for people to get their hands on it. And even if they have negative feedback, so be it. I just want to hear the feedback. I want to get it out in the market and see what people have to say about it.
There's certainly a je ne sais quoi elegance to it, right? It has a refinement to it that screams Avo, in my opinion. But right from the light, you get that very from that. I imagine it's from the Ecuadorian wrapper that's very similar to the Camacho Ecuador. It pops, right?
It's a crow,
And
yeah.
and then you get the Honduran tobacco Nicaraguans and in the binders and fills, and you're just like, wow, this has this sophistication about it that again harkens back to a lot of what the lighter Avos are. I have like the XO here sitting in front of me that is light and creamy and has very almost Davidoff white label synchronicity with it. And I think that the Expresivo for me was just such a departure from that for me, that it was just something that was very palate catching, um, instead of eye catching, it would be a palate catching
Ooh, that's good. You should
intrigue, which was
trademark that.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna do that, but it certainly had an intrigue about it, and it just a factor that I was completely wowed by it, and I was telling Garrison before you jumped on, Jack, and I know I messaged this to you earlier, but you know, this was the finest trade show, and for cigars for me. This was the best experience that I've had with cigars at a trade show. I think the releases were absolutely fire. I, didn't first time ever didn't smoke a bad cigar. Didn't smoke anything that was like not appealing to me.
Right.
And so for the Expresivo to make my top five, that tells you what kind of a winner that you've developed here. I'm very excited about this. This is very exciting. And I mean, I know you guys are pumped too, and I'm genuinely impressed because we talk about Honduran. There's good Honduran and then there's bad Honduran.
Right.
We talk about this all the time in media. All of us kind of have a similar uh, a similar opinion in that regard. That there's good Honduran and there's bad Honduran. Oh, this is exceptional Honduran. And while it's certainly not a Honduran Puro by any stretch, but you can taste it, and I think it marries. I don't want to put labels on it, right? Because I don't want to, you know, polarize any of your audience or anything but like that. But I think it marries Davidoff and Camacho in a very real way that I think has not been seen um, at all. And I think it accomplishes that. And I don't know if that's what you were going for or not, but I think it does that in a very very real way.
I mean, we're kind of going to be in I think industry wide, it's just a very interesting time. There's kind of like a Hondurasance that's happening,
Hmm.
and just because of different like geopolitical factors, I mean, you've seen a lot of production move into Honduras, into the Dominican Republic, and there's so much more of those two kind of products being brought to the forefront. And especially for like what you would expect, like if coming into this year, you would say, all right, you guys got an email from us at the beginning of the year that said, hey, something's coming at the show. It's like, all right, Avo, 100 year, probably going to be some sort of like limited edition Dominican, this, and that. And this is none of that. And I still think that it hits the mark, and that was, to be candid, I was like, how do we create a elevated Avo experience that features Honduran tobacco that tastes like an Avo that doesn't, hearken to a different product that we've made, or how do we showcase the quality of our factory in Honduras and release an Avo product that still, you know, screams Avo. And
Yeah.
like I smoke I've been I don't smoke a lot of Churchills in general. The Expresivo Churchill is
It's amazing.
the best one. And the Robusto and the Toro are wonderful, but like that size has just like captivated me. And I'm like, oh, thank heavens. It makes our jobs a lot easier, when you're like confident, like, all right, this is coming out. Oh my God, this is going to be great. I can't wait. Let's let the cigar do the talking, and we'll just kind of show up and, dress nice, iron our shirts at the hotel, and let the cigar do the work.
When you have an expression that does, not to be too punny with words there, but when you have an expression that does well in a Churchill, I mean that's extremely that's extremely um founded, especially in today's day and age. Like I smoke Robustos almost. If I when I try new blends out, I'm gravitating towards the Robusto or the Corona Larga, something like that. And when a Churchill kind of sings like that in a blend, it's fantastic because I think it's probably the one most underrated sizes in general when it's done well, right? So I think that's something exciting that I'll be really excited to try.
You'll
To
get
tap
some at some point.
Wednesdays.
Whenever UPS decides to drop it off, you'll get your
Beautiful,
fill.
beautiful. Well, to Garrison, to tap into your geopolitical, the geopolitics that Jack mentioned, and you're with your poli sci background. It's an interesting perspective. I just wondered if you've thought about it from that through that lens. Davidoff is positioned incredibly uniquely with the presence in Honduras and the presence in the DR, with some of the geopolitics that are going on. I mean, have you thought about it through that lens, or have you seen it through that lens? I'm just interested to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we kind of have the luxury of not, because a lot of those decisions are made above our pay grade. But I think one of the nice things about the office setting that we work in is we're pretty enmeshed with our kind of upper sales team, our business analyst guys, and that kind of thing, who are always aware of the tariff situation or aware of the cost coming out of the factories, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of it provides us with a unique perspective to where it's not something I would traditionally hear in my role, but it's information that I get access to. These guys are so knowledgeable and they love what they do, and they're numbers junkies and always trying to find the way forward and that kind of thing. So it's definitely something, obviously, with the administration that we've had in place the last couple of years that we've had to think about. And these are the times where Davidoff tends to shine, where everybody else is jacking up, 10, 15%, price increases on things. And we have a little bit more flexibility, not only because of our tobacco storage, having some of the largest tobacco, if not the largest tobacco reserves in the industry, but also because of our footprints in these countries. And so I think it's, that could be propelling some of that Hondurasance that Jack, mentioned is who's going to have a higher percentage coming out of there as far as when it gets imported into the US. There might be more investment that's given on that tobacco. So that could be kind of why we're seeing more of the industry move towards there. I don't think Nicaraguan tobacco is overplayed by any means. I'm still more of a Nicaraguan junkie than I've really explored a lot of my Honduran tobacco at this point. But I think it's an interesting perspective and one that we're going to have to pay attention to going forward. Whether tariffs are removed or not, you can still have situations where relationships in these countries have now been damaged on a political level between governments because now there's bad blood because you tried to slap a tariff on something. So maybe, even in a different administration, we're not going to be as nice and as agreeing towards just allowing things to go back to how they were before. I mean, it might be a reverse tariff situation or something like that. So it's definitely causing unnecessary ripples in our industry, and something that you're going to have to keep an eye on going forward. But one that Davidoff is uniquely positioned to still be at the forefront of the industry, as we have the flexibility to meet these things head on.
Well, I just finished up my AVO domain, and with 6 years of age on that thing has some rip to it. I mean, that
Oh
is
yeah.
fantastic. Still as amazing as ever, and it's actually I think it's garnered some strength because it's got some zip on it. So I say this every time a chance I get to talk to people from Davidoff. If you want to bring something back, the AVO
It's the
domain is
domain all day.
just
That'd be my choice as well.
sitting there right there for you. So we're going to take a quick break before we talk about a couple more things AVO related. We're going to talk with one of my first fun segments of the evening, which is always our United Cigar Presidential Trivia segment. So Poli-Sci Major is going to come in handy right now. So here we go. This is Jack's favorite segment too. Are you ready to live the United lifestyle? Launch your palate voyage with United Cigars. You could celebrate over 250 years of excellence with the Red Anchor or experience elegance with La Gianna Havana. Rekindle the spirit of 1776 and light up the skies with a firecracker, or then celebrate honor, pride, and accomplishment with a gold star. Jet set the globe and capture luxury with Atabey, Byron, Alfonso, Bandolero, or Nelson cigars from Selected Tobacco. Don't just smoke, smoke United. United Cigars since 1901. United we smoke. Starting on Flag Day, June 14th. Post your favorite United cigar on Instagram, Facebook, or on the United Cigar Discord channel with the hashtag United Flag Day and be entered to win a prize pack including a flag, box of United Cigars, and lighter from United Cigars. Remember to use the hashtag United Flag Day starting on June 14th. We're going to be running that through July 4th. Our 20 Days of United Cigars promotion is coming back, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be concluding on my wedding day, which is July 4th, which just so happens to be the 250th anniversary of this country. So a lot to celebrate on July 4th this year. So light up in the United and celebrate together. So guys, we got some questions around presidential trivia. So being that we are celebrating AVO tonight, and AVO of course has the musical background, I decided to mesh some presidents and their musical tastes together for our questions tonight. So are we ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right. We've got the first question. Number one is multiple choice. Okay. So which president reportedly listened to the soundtrack of Camelot so often that it became associated with his presidency? Is it A, Ronald Reagan, B, John F. Kennedy, C, Bill Clinton, or D, Richard Nixon?
Ooh.
And I can read it again if you'd like.
Yeah, let me hear.
heard
Let me
it.
hear.
I don't even. I mean,
What was
like
the first? What was the first multiple
Camelot?
choice?
I didn't even know there was a soundtrack.
So which president, yeah, there was a musical with Richard Burton. Which president reported, and Julie Andrews, which president reportedly listened to the soundtrack from Camelot so often that it became associated with his presidency? A. Ronald Reagan, B. John F. Kennedy, C. Bill Clinton, or D. Richard Nixon?
My intuition says go to JFK
Okay.
because he's the
Yeah, I
cigar
feel like
guy out of
Julie
the whole
Andrews. I feel like
bunch.
just timeline wise, we got to be somewhere in the
He's a
JFK
huge cigar
Nixon.
guy.
Yeah. All, all true. All true. And that is correct.
Bang,
JFK is the answer.
Oh,
Yes.
bang.
John F. Kennedy's presidency was hearkened and nicknamed Camelot. So mostly because of his ideals around creating a youthful and vibrant nation where everyone had, equal standing. Obviously the precursor to the Equal Rights movement and the Equal Rights Act that his successor LBJ would pass years later after his death. So yeah, John F. Kennedy is the answer. So good job.
nice.
He would have loved Expresivo.
There you
He
go.
would have loved
Exactly.
Expresivo.
All right. This next question is true or false. While not a fan of jazz, Richard Nixon still became the first president to formally recognize the very first jazz musician, rewarding Duke Ellington with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. True or false?
I got to go false on that. JFK
Yeah,
was.
feels like somebody did this, but it wasn't Nixon.
Okay. It's actually true.
I knew
Oh,
it.
Yeah. Nixon actually was not a fan of jazz at all, believe it or not, but he did award Duke Ellington with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So, it was really quite a ceremony. Ellington wore a very garish outfit, and it was even it was kind of pre-80s, obviously. It was something almost out of the 1980s with how garish and outlandish it was and everything. But he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Richard Nixon. So, all right. Well, last question of the evening. Here we go, guys. Multiple choice again. All right. Which president famously released curated playlists during his presidency and after his presidency for the White House, featuring artists like Kendrick Lamar, Frank Ocean, and The
oh,
National?
yeah, yeah,
Was it
yeah.
A, George W. Bush, B, Bill Clinton, C, Barack Obama, or D, Jimmy Carter?
See all day, baby.
Barack Obama?
Yeah. Jimmy Carter did not know who Kendrick Lamar
Jimmy
was.
Carter did not.
That's correct. Barack Obama. You would
I
put
saw a
together.
couple of them.
Yeah,
I wonder, like, I
you can
wonder
still
how
find him on
much
Spotify.
I've always wondered this, like, if you're the president, like, how much, like, you can't have more than like
No, no shot.
20
2 minutes.
minutes a day to
Yeah,
like listen to something or like, like,
no shot.
hey, did you see the game last night? It's like, no, dude, I'm the president.
Yeah.
I have like 15 minutes to brush my teeth like a week. I can't
I
be
don't know, dude. He did a March Madness tournament every year too.
he had to have a guy that helped him with that. Oh, I mean, I guess
Uh,
that takes a couple minutes.
he was a hooper. Obama's a hooper.
It takes a couple
Yeah,
minutes, I'm sure.
that's awesome. Yep, that is true. Barack Obama. You can still find him on Spotify. Check it out. If you're cruising around Spotify, you can find the White House playlists that he put together. So good stuff. Awesome. Well, that was our United Cigar presidential trivia segment. Again, on June 14th, we're going to be launching our 20 Days of United Cigars. Use the hashtag United Flag Day and post your favorite, you smoking your favorite United cigar on Instagram, Facebook. Garrison's gonna have to, start up his Facebook again,
Yeah.
and or check out the new United Cigar Discord channel. Post it there, and you'll be entered to win. Prize pack that includes a flag, a box of United Cigars, and a United Cigars lighter as well. So check it out. Um, we'll be posting more information as we get a little bit closer to Flag Day, but it all kicks off on June 14th, going through July 4th. We'll pick a winner on July 5th, and yeah, I'll be busy on July 4th too. So celebrating my wedding day
Okay,
and the
busy.
250th anniversary of our country. So
More
good stuff.
importantly,
Yeah. Um,
Well, for everybody except for Bear.
Well, let's jump back into this, guys. Garrison, you talked about how this PCA was your first baptism by fire into the
yeah.
world that is PCA and everything, and you talked a little bit about that experience during our show interview and everything. But just to kind of go back to it, like what was that experience like for you? And like, how did how did it match with your expectations kind of going into the trade show?
Yeah, it was I'd only been working for the company for like a year. And so honestly, for having such a young professional career in the industry, it really at the time it was the pinnacle of my career. It was the most rewarding experience of my career to be able to make it to that stage after having watched it, in so many different formats as a consumer. Um, so for expectations, man, you knew just from like watching on YouTube and other media content, just it was everybody in the industry. It was so big. So I mean that coming in and still just seeing the scale of it was just so impressive. Just to realize that they can fit everybody under one roof, and everybody that is somebody is pretty much there. To me, what was one of really the coolest sides of it was the networking side, the camaraderie, the catching up across brands, across media. People move and they shift around in the industry and they go on to different things. And so it's almost really more like a massive family reunion. And our industry is already kind of
Yeah.
small in that manner. Everybody kind of knows somebody. So that was such a cool perspective because I've been to like conventions and stuff before and conferences, and it doesn't have that feel at all. And so I describe it as the most fun week that I've had in my life, and also the most exhausting. And so just to have those two things battling is such a rare feeling that you get in your life, to be like that exhausted, but also be so excited to wake up in 2 hours and get back on the floor again, and go and talk to a bunch of people. It was such a rewarding experience, and I can't look forward to enough as I continue on my journey in the industry and get to know more and more people, to always be able to have that focal point at PCA to come back to catch up with people and just have a great time and make more memories. Man, it was amazing.
Garrison, you talked about the aura of the Davidoff, booth and the experience and everything. I couldn't agree more with it that like I did earlier. And one of the things that was part of the launch of the Expresivo was this interesting activation that you guys put together, with these signature mocktails.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I want to get both your perspectives on this. Garrison, just just having that as part of your first experience from your thoughts, and Jack, and I say this a little tongue in cheek, but like I don't mean it the way it's going to sound, but like I know you enjoy a nice adult beverage from time to time, and there is a movement, that I would say in this country that's going on. A lot of people are choosing the sober life, and I think I need to ask, was this intentional as part of a kind of a trend we're seeing, in society today, where more people are choosing the sober lifestyle, or was it just something fun y'all wanted to do, and want to get your differing perspectives on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it played because I kind of don't booze anymore either. Like I'm kind of accidentally important to Davidoff. I'm married. I have like a mortgage payment, so I've kind of slowed down drinking. And two, like we had done coffee a lot. So when we were looking at maybe not doing coffee in the booth, it was like, okay, well, we could do maybe energy drinks. It was like, okay, we could do mocktails and then cocktails. And it's like, well, let's try something different. Let's do like kind of like an energy drink thing. It was very cool. There was like a little bubble on the top of it.
Yeah,
And then
super cool.
also it was like, all right, I think we got it perfect because it's exactly kind of what we're trying to do with Avo too, where it's like new, refreshing, interesting. And we knew that if we, I think mostly for our sales team, if we had an alcohol option, I think that our sales would have been either through the roof or in the gutter. So we wanted to just not risk it. We're like, let's just do that instead. So it worked out great. I was actually a little bit trepidatious. I was like, if we know one thing about a cigar smoker is that they love coffee, and we did a whole Zeno like latte thing last year, and people were coming, like manufacturers were coming from the like other side of the show floor and like walking 10 minutes and waiting in line for 10 minutes to get like a latte. So it's like, oh, how's this gonna go? And everybody loved it. So it was great.
It was fantastic, a great experience. Garrison had a little fun with me, as you guys handed me my mocktail on camera with when I was interviewing Garrison, and Garrison tells me to shoot it, so I did. Much to I don't know, the delight, chagrin, or shock and awe of Jack off camera.
All the above.
So I'm like, he told me to shoot it, so I did. So
That was a fantastic shot as well.
quite it was quite the pick me up too. I really enjoyed it. It was very tasty.
Yeah, we need to boost up the caffeine
Caffeine.
percentage next year because it was not enough of the I'm like, I need to be like shaking caffeinated at these things to stay upright. So I was
Celsius
like, we
level. Yeah.
we need like 10 times the amount of caffeine.
Well, Garrison, from your perspective, this was obviously your first activation, first part of it. Like, what were your thoughts on the whole energy drink mocktail thing? I mean, super cool presentation. I mean,
Yeah.
can't had to love that, but I mean, just in general, like, what was your perspective?
Yeah, we had no idea what that was going to look like going into it as well. So shout out to the company that we work with. I think that was the same company that did the coffee for us the year before. And so all I knew from the renditions and the mock-ups was that we were going to have some type of mocktail experience, caffeinated mocktail experience. And then when I got there and actually saw what they were doing, I was just blown away. And then as the word got out on the show floor, it was amazing. Um, and so the idea, like for those who weren't there, didn't see the idea of putting a vapor bubble on top of it that had kind of a citrus vapor in there that you would pop on the way up and you'd breathe in the citrus. And then you would kind of follow it up with the drink itself. I think it ties in perfectly. I think there's a few different factors that everybody, what you see in the headlines all the time is that the new generation doesn't want to drink, they've given it up, they're California sober or whatever it might be. I think some of that might be the case. I really think there's a multitude of reasons. Honestly, if you go out and try to have a drink anywhere now, it's usually just the price point, dude. If you go back to like our parents' generation, you could get a Bud Light for 75 cents and in a neat shot of whiskey for a couple of bucks. And now that's 15, 16, $17. I mean, you can rack up a bar tab. So just the pure expense, I think, of just trying to have a drink now, even like at a happy hour scenario, isn't helping in this economy, as Jack likes to say,
This
when everybody's a
economy?
little bit more strapped. So I think that's a huge contributing factor. I also think that people are just naturally branching out from outside of what cigars have always been traditionally paired with, which has been some type of spirit, some type of cocktail or alcoholic beverage. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the history and the legacy of the industry is rooted in that. You can absolutely do that until we're all dead and gone. You can always pair it with a spirit. But I think it's a part of the adventure of exploring premium tobacco is branching beyond that, whether it be coffee. Dude, I know people now that are doing the Ghost energy drinks. Like supposedly some of those are like unbelievable when you pair them with Connecticut's in the morning. So something about the sweet sugar on that. I personally love like a good Nicaraguan. I love the Davidoff Nicaraguan and Coke Zero, like after lunch. I don't know what it is about like the sweet syrup from the Coke and then a little bit of spice you get out of the Nicaraguan tobacco is like a beautiful
Yeah.
pairing. So I think it's just kind of catching on as you have this probably more of like a younger skewed. I think if you probably did a statistic on it, you'd see it's more 45 and under that are really starting to lean into the outside of a spirit kind of pairing. And I think it all goes into like what I was talking about before is how do you continue to attract in people that traditionally weren't involved in tobacco or weren't necessarily attracted to tobacco.
Yeah.
I think even wine, man, you look at wine and that wasn't historically always paired with tobacco. And
Hmm.
some people will even tell you that have been around a while that you can't you're not supposed to pair a cigar with wine. And to me, that was mind boggling. I'm a huge red wine junkie. I love a Cab Sauv or Merlot, Pinot Noir, those kind of things. And I'm like, that absolutely pairs wonderfully with a cigar. And wine, as you know, is a little more sophisticated, a little more high collar, where it's not about getting black out. It's more about, what are you tasting? And it pairs beautifully with a cigar because it's all the same type of experience with mouthful and flavor notes and those kind of things. So I think it's just the industry evolving, man. And I think anybody that tries to fight it, you're kind of fighting an inevitable tide that's coming in. Anybody that leans into it, I think you're going to see the growth that comes from that and you'll ride the popularity train. So I think we're ahead of the curve on it.
I mean, it was definitely a fun experience, and I regret not going back to get another one, uh, just because I thought it was really enjoyable.
We'll
Uh,
mail you
I
one.
think we'll have it
The
next
okay.
year.
bubble won't be intact, but we'll mail. And it actually a lot of our like activations in store that Garrison will be doing, we're going to have kind of like a cocktail experience that also is mocktail ready, so we're prepared for if people don't drink or don't drink as much or don't
Mhm.
pair traditionally, we're ready for all angles.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a soda since 2015. I'm pretty boring. I drink black coffee and, soda water, sparkling water, mineral water, whatever you want to call it, or I have an orange flavored. sparkling
Exactly.
water here. So like, I always joke around like when COVID was happening, everyone was getting drunk, and I kind of veered the other direction. I stopped drinking. I mean, I still enjoy a beverage here now and then. So, but energy drinks, for sure, and certainly a mocktail is definitely a different experience. I thought that you guys had enormous fun with it and made it very engaging, and I thought that was a really cool, unique take on it. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad that it was successful for you guys as well. So that's really cool. So, um, just to kind of before we launch into our next few fun segments to kind of close out the evening and everything, I wanted to kind of go back to uh, just the PCA experience itself. Um, you know, the again with this decision to kind of make Avo the focal point, and while simultaneously launching two new cores with two of your accompanying brands. And a celebratory limited edition at Camacho, the Camacho 250. Love what you did with that, Jack, and I know that was kind of a last minute project for you, and uh, I thought you pulled it off with flying colors at all pun intended too. I thought it was fantastic. But you know, you know, what was, there had to have been some reservation still about that decision, right? I mean, you know, you've got, Davidoff, which is the flagship. You're launching a new core line and everything, but you've decided to make Avo the focal point. Like, what were those kind of conversations like behind closed doors a little bit? If you could peel back some layers of the onion in terms of like the type of pressure that was felt. Hey, we've got to knock this out of the park because here we are doing these two new releases just to focus on Davidoff and Avo for the conversation's sake, but we're going to really we're going to put most of our focus around the Avo release. What was the kind of the pressure behind the scenes like?
Yeah, I mean, for it kind of goes the way of like each year somebody gets to be the star of the show. So last year and kind of the year prior, there was a big push on Zeno. And Zeno, to our sales team's credit and Law's credit, has really taken off. And Zeno Nicaragua is just a wonderful blend. And Zeno Honduras is like
Mind blowing.
stellar. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with Zeno is that we could charge double. They're so good. So it's almost like, okay, we have Zeno and Avo that have kind of similar release timelines, but we feel confident in the kind of groundwork that was laid for Zeno and the success that Zeno will have. And then Davidoff, it's like pure Dominicano. It's kind of like, all right, well, one, the audience for Pure Dominicano is a bit of a captive audience in that we believe strongly that like our retailers, one, it was released before the show, so it was kind of landing like right after the show. A lot of the retailers were receiving it while they're at the show, and it's like, okay, we feel like those retailers and those consumers will know about Pure Dominicano. But for Avo Expresivo, it was like, this is something that we're going to announce at the show. And this is something that's going to release like a couple months later. So, like, if you were to kind of pick the three, let's do it that way. And then Camacho, we kind of found a way to keep some excitement. But, it's like when you have to use like a sports analogy, like when you have a NBA team that's like going all the way, every kind of player has to know their role. Like you have to kind of figure out what part you're going to play in that. And somebody's got to be your star and somebody's got to be your role player. So for us, it was like, how do we maximize our AVO opportunity while also still talking about Davidoff and Zeno? And we are kind of interesting in our makeup in that we don't sell Davidoff long filler to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, well, the guys that carry Davidoff are going to be very excited about Pure Dominicano. But most of our customers by percentage can't carry Pure Dominicano. So if we did the whole booth Davidoff and everything is Davidoff, what do we have for those guys? And from a and consumer perspective too. Like for me, if I didn't have the pleasure of working for Davidoff, the amount of Davidoff that I would be able to smoke would be limited just because of my, income. So
Mhm.
all of those factors coming together, and kind of the way that we construct our team here in the US now is that each brand kind of has their own champion. So that's nice too, is that each of us in the office and each of us on the road kind of get in the trenches and just kind of argue for what makes the most sense. And that's kind of the decision that we came out with. And it's been a great year for us, not only on the release side and not just for the new stuff, but for our current lines and overall. And it's pretty encouraging, given everything that's happening in the world and the economic factors and the price of gas, that it seems like us as a company and us as an industry are trending in a positive direction, especially after the conversation we just had with alcohol. I mean, I just got done with a trip, and one of our retailers not only owns a retail shop, but is a distributor of beer. And he's like,
Oh,
people are
cigar shop,
drinking.
Biloxi,
Yeah,
Mississippi.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like people are drinking less. It doesn't seem like people are smoking less given all the current factors. So it's a interesting time, but it's also good to be where we're at overall as an industry, considering everything that we've had to deal with in the years leading up to and this year currently.
Please forgive the abrasiveness of how this question sounds. So please keep that in mind. But
Fair. You're like
it,
the
it
least abrasive guy I
well,
know.
again, my apologies because it you didn't really answer my question. I answered you like I was asking about but it seems like you did at the same time. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. It sounds like there wasn't a lot of pressure to make this successful with the meshing of the products, the way that you just said the market is positioned and everything like that. So it doesn't sound like there was a lot of pressure for you guys.
Yeah, it was it seemed like it would be a difficult decision, but when you kind of carried in all the factors, it was like this year's the Avo year. Like Avo makes the most sense to get behind.
Mhm. Awesome. Um, yeah, I just want to go back to just before we kind of just segue into our fun segments to conclude the evening. I just want to congratulate you both. I think you executed it incredibly well. This cigar is phenomenal. I cannot wait for its release. I'm already got ready to order a box. I just need to decide what size, or maybe I'll just get one of all three. Who knows? But I'm truly impressed with it. You guys should be incredibly proud. I know you all are. I know how hard you worked on it. And I'm just so excited for it. And well done. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, and I mean,
Thank you, sir.
we kind of didn't do anything up to this point. Our work really starts
My
on
work starts now. Yeah.
June 26th. It's all the it's we're like the guys on the field, and it's like
Yeah.
all of the work has been done in the off season, and now our job kind of begins. So we owe a lot of our success so far, or all of our success so far, to our teams in Switzerland and DR and Honduras for kind of setting the table.
So, Jack, with the shifting of the roles and everything, and forgive me, I'm still not clear on where your position sits. Are you going to be mostly over a few brands, or like what you called Garrison? I don't know how much of a joke that was. Your protege. Like, where are you going to sit on the playing field when all this is
Yeah,
said
so
and
I
done?
guess this is news. It's not like crazy news, but I do Avo and Camacho in office. So I haven't like posted that anywhere, but we had a team member that kind of left earlier in the year before PCA, and she was in charge of Avo, and I'm going to be doing Avo and Camacho. So I'm in the office making sure everything looks nice, and then Garrison and Law are out in
Preaching
the
to the masses.
field making it happen. So I'm the Avo and Camacho in office guy, and they're the evangelists.
Garrison, before we pivot here too, like you mentioned a number of times tonight, how long before you started in the industry, you were a consumer of media and obviously a consumer of cigars and stuff. So and you obviously got to know Jack a little bit before you even started with the company too, as you discussed earlier. seeing kind of his transformation and how what he's done in the company and what he's become. I mean, what was that like knowing that you were going to essentially be working for him and alongside him and working for him in some capacities?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it was I don't know, we kind of hit the ground running with it. It's always an interesting perspective when you come in and you have to think about somebody that's you consider a friend is now going to be your boss. I think the industry probably is uniquely positioned to make that something that's more easier to go with. It's not like some strict cubicle job where somebody's over your shoulder all the time. It was very much more of a mentorship kind of thing. And because I was coming in with no experience, I definitely looked to him as that kind of guiding figure. And he's uniquely, anybody who gets to know Jack knows that he just wants the best for somebody no matter what position that you're in. And so to be in somebody where it's like he technically is over my position, my success is also his success, and my job makes his job easier. Just to show the level of the care, the time that he takes to make sure I'm on the right page, the constant encouragement. I mean, I couldn't have asked for somebody better to basically hold my hand walking into this industry, and kind of still even now with my training wheels on that are like finally just starting to come off. I still know that he's kind of there behind the bike to kind of keep me straight on the path going forward. If I ever have questions or lose confidence about something or don't know what action to take. So it's been surreal, man. It's not. There's never. I want to make Dad proud, so there's never a time where he's having to get on my ass about anything. And I hope to keep it that way. But it's really been more of like a big brother kind of situation, even though we're the
Mm.
same age. Where he has such a vast array of
The
knowledge
industry
because he's been
ages
in
you
the
though.
industry. Yeah, so
Right.
there you go.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it works because again, he has such a vast array of knowledge of the industry, man, that it's like I get to be the understudy to this. Um, is a privilege that I probably won't ever fully appreciate. But it's also double edged sword because anytime you go anywhere, they're like, "Oh, Jack is the best. He was the best." And he's like, "You got to live up to this guy. You got to be all engaging, and everybody loves him." So he's been a great role model, man, and get to see the way that he continues to progress every single month, every year. The career that he's going to have is amazing. I
Yeah.
just hope to ride on his coattails as he continues to go to the top, man. So it's been a huge privilege. I love the guy to death. I tell him that all the time. Is like I don't know that he'll fully appreciate. So fun fact, he's actually going to officiate my wedding next year. He's going to be
Oh,
the one to actually marry us.
can't. Oh my God, you can't have anyone better. Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's gonna be
exactly.
Come
So
awesome.
on.
like perfect. And
Oh
as
shit.
soon as I brought it up, my fiance is like, my fiance loves him as well. And she's like, there is literally nobody better that I would ever want to marry us than this man. So I don't think he'll fully ever appreciate the opportunity that he's given me, man, to have a job that I just again is like a golden ticket, dude. That you
Yeah.
get to do what you love, and I never thought that'd be an opportunity I had. And even though
Oh,
he
that's
always say
great.
that I did the interview on my own, he was still a huge part in making that vision become a reality. So it's been incredible, man.
Well, this is breaking news too. This is a fun fact. I think it might even shock Jack a little bit. It's truly hilarious. So we're having a small ceremony. Okay, so very very small. A couple of industry folks will be there. Really ecstatic about that. But it's mostly be family, very close family, close friends. Very small. In Elkin, North Carolina, your old, just on the heels of your old stomping grounds there, Harrison. But we were gonna have a non-traditional officiant as well, and I was making a list of people, and Jack's on my list. Jack was on my list. I swear to God, I had Jack on there.
You should
Jack,
It's
start
I,
an
great.
LLC, dude.
and
I would have done a great
Jack,
job.
your success is it was truly the line of demarcation because I was like, there's no way Jack's gonna be available because like he's gonna be way too busy. And and that's with all respect intended, that's why you didn't get an invite either, is I just figured you'd be so busy with everything. But like I was like, but you were honest to goodness on my list, Jack. That's hilarious. I mean, you
I'm
can't.
I'm starting to I'm starting to LLC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
No charge.
Yeah.
I'll bring
Just free.
cigars.
Oh man, that's gonna be a blast. He's gonna do amazing. And
He's gonna kill
you
it.
you said that you're going into shops and you hear about how great Jack is, so you're gonna hate the next comment I make.
Let's go.
Jack, I know we touched on this the last time I had you on my show and everything, but I really want to convey like how truly impressive your career has been from my perspective. Um, every time I talk to you, I am genuinely more impressed. I have it is a blind man in Detroit could see the amazing growth that you've achieved in when we think about it in perspective, like in relatively short order. We're
Right.
talking about in a decade's time, what you've managed to do, the resume that you've built, the brands that you've been a part of, the you know the institutions that you've been a part of. You know, everything from like I think about the Freestyle Live, Drew Estate, and what you and Joe and some of the guys at Drew Estate built, and what you've done in your short time at Davidoff too. It's been absolutely incredible. Please don't take this condescendingly. I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
It
of
is it
course.
is unbelievable to see what you've done, and I like Garrison here. I'm so excited to see what the future brings for you and
Oh,
what the future is going to bring for Garrison as well. So,
yeah. Well, I'm gonna hang up the call right now, because I'm just feeling great, and that's great. That's all I needed. I mean,
well,
Ride the high, baby.
there you go. Well,
I tell people all the time, because there's a question that I get. It's like, oh, how do you get in the cigar industry? And it's just all like circumstance. Because like, if right now I didn't have this exact job and the same opportunities that I've had were presented with to me, I wouldn't be able to do. I mean, like Bear, you have the Alec Bradley background. I was like, hey, I want to get into the cigar business. And Alec Bradley, Alan and Bradley and Alec took a chance on me. And at that time, I could just move across the country and, start a new job. And I didn't have to worry about X, Y, and Z. And then, I Drew Estate happened and I was just able and willing. And much like Garrison, it's just like if a door was cracked open, I was always willing to, you know, see
Take
what
it
was on
in.
the other side of it. And even if it was kind of scary and moving from, Drew Estate, which is having all the success in the world, to Davidoff, which is an unknown quantity for me and kind of a different corporate animal, I was like, oh, I'll take the plunge. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, one, like if you're able to just move, that's probably the greatest skill set into getting into the cigar industry. When people are like, hey, um, how do I get a job at Davidoff? I'm like, do you want to move to Pinellas Park or St. Petersburg? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, that's going to be a limiting factor. And that's also why Garrison, got lucky too, because he was like, hey, I'm already here and I check all the other boxes. And it's like, great, perfect. But, I am always just willing to, see what that looks like. And everything that I've done has been totally different than the other thing that I've done. And I just love cigars. It's like I'm married to cigars now. Like when I was in media, it was like we were dating and it was exciting, and you get invited to a different factory trip. And now I'm like not totally jaded, but it's like, oh, I got to go to Honduras next month, and I'm like, I have to slap myself and be like, this is what you want. Like 18-year-old you, when you smoked your first like Liberty, was like, this is all we've ever wanted. So I do it for him. I'm like, all right, this is what we signed up for. So on my worst day, this is what we wanted to do. We're doing it. And it's not sexy at all. Like it's mostly, I tell people like the cool stuff that makes its way to Instagram. For every like cool Instagram thing I did, there's like 40 spreadsheets and like 300 emails, So it's like, it's none of the cool stuff that you think. And I've
it
gotten
never
to
is.
ride zero horses in tobacco fields, but you do it because you love it. And for conversations like this and how long we've known each other, Bear, it's been forever. And
Yeah.
you just kind of keep clocking in and seeing what the next thing comes. And cigars have been the constant.
Well, when your prospective partners have you guys on the couch later this week, you can look back to this ego boost that I've given you guys and just
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
rest
be
on
riding
that.
this high
So
well into July.
awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate the conversation. We got a few more segments to conclude the evening. Don't worry, they're all fun. So this next segment is our rapid fire segment. It's our this or that segment brought to you by Artista Cigars, which is truly the last hidden gem of the Dominican Republic. With nearly 70 years of history rolling cigars, the family behind Artista believes in honoring their long-held tradition of handmade artistry. Artista's blends include factory-exclusive tobaccos and front marks for every budget. In fact, Artista Cigars has one of the most varied portfolios on the market today. There's something for everyone at Artista. Now, if you're like me and you can never ever decide what to smoke, Artista is a breath of fresh air because that I know I can take something from any box that Artista has to offer, and I know I'm going to get something truly special. So, guys, this is meant to be rapid fire. We're going to go through some this or that questions. So it's just literally this or that. So, um, some of them are cigar related, some of them are not. So, let's go ahead and let's tap in here. So, um, let's go with morning or evening cigar. What are we doing?
It.
Morning.
Morning?
I'm gonna say evening.
Evening. Okay. Now, this question might be a little tricky for Garrison. I know you favor mild cigars. That's not what's on the table. It's not mild, medium, or full bodied. It is
Okay.
Connecticut or Maduro wrapper.
Okay. Maduro.
Connecticut.
Okay. Interesting.
You taking
All
a
right.
Connecticut? That's shocking. Wow.
I mean, this is a lot of this is also like muddied by I live in Florida and I work at an office that has a air-conditioned cigar lounge. So at this phase in my life, for me to smoke an evening cigar, I'm sweating and I'm outside fighting mosquitoes, or I'm at a nice air-conditioned office smoking an XO. It's
That's
just
fair.
it's just where I'm at right now.
Also, Maduro can be medium bodied, so I'm taking
Yes.
Maduro.
All right. There we go.
This
All
was not,
right.
you didn't get to, don't strike that from the record. Go back and delete that.
So we've been talking a lot about Avo tonight, Davidoff. We've mentioned Camacho, Zeno even, but those aren't the only brands that Davidoff owns. So would you rather smoke a
Ooh,
Cusano 18 or a Griffin's?
Griffins all day. All
Griffin's
day,
is
I'll
the
take Griffins.
most, yeah, it's the most like underrated cigar that
Yeah,
we sell.
phenomenal cigar.
Oh my gosh, guys, I could not disagree more. Cusano 18, man, is the most underrated cigar that
Okay.
you guys have. Oh
I
my
love that.
gosh.
Well, we don't
JT
make
would
a
love
bad
to hear
cigar,
that.
so that's
Yeah,
tough.
man. Um, but that's awesome. I love that you guys are jumped on the Griffins thing. That's awesome. Fantastic. So, all right, this new experience for Garrison, but Jax has had a long history with it, so his perspectives could be different. So, would you rather be on the PCA floor or PCA after hours celebration?
After hours.
After hours, the
Yeah,
floor
no
is,
shot.
you have to have so many crappy conversations.
Yeah, it's
The after
exhausting.
hours, you get to choose your company.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, we talked a lot about pairings today as well too. So, would you guys rather have the mocktail or an espresso to pair with your cigar?
I'll take the mocktail. That mocktail was out of this world.
Mocktail.
Yeah, they were phenomenal.
All right. To delve into a couple of other things we talked about tonight, jazz or rock music?
Rock.
Rock. I'm too stupid for jazz.
I'm not artistic enough.
Too dumb. Sorry, Avo.
What? Okay, so what kind of rock music? Alternative, classic? What are we? Heavy metal? What
I'm
are
a
we doing?
classic. Give me a classic guy. Yeah, I love like the Eagles, Journey,
I like
Fleetwood Mac.
a pop punk, like post emo kind of vibe.
There you go. I knew Jack was gonna have a fun take on this. Here we go. Give me a band.
Microwave. That's a dojo favorite. Hot Mulligan. A lot of kind of American football. It's like kind of like you're sad. I, you're not going to call your stepdad your dad ever. That's kind of the musical vibe.
Awesome. All right. I always like to ask this one. I think it's funny because I think it's so indicative of the industry. But are we taking a vacation on the beach or in the mountains?
We
Mountains.
live at the beach. So I'm taking the
Yeah.
mountains.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the same
I get
reason.
that. I get that a
yeah.
lot. Yeah. All right. When listening to music, would you rather sit in silence listening to music, doing nothing, or doing an activity?
Nothing. Always. I
Oh,
hate
I'm
doing stuff.
torn.
Yeah.
I'm 51% nothing. I'll lean towards nothing.
Now, it doesn't have to be a president, but I always stand back to the presidential segment with this question. Now, this isn't a this or that question. It's just kind of a fun. What historical figure, living or dead, do you want to smoke a cigar with?
I think, I mean, like the suck up answer, I'm going to take both Zeno Davidoff, Avo
Nice.
Uvezian, and Winston Churchill off the table because those are like the kind of nerdy company man answers. I'm going to go Ulysses S. Grant,
Oh,
Dude,
he
my
took my
man.
answer.
the
He took
Oh
man,
my
man.
answer.
the man.
Oh man. Coop's gonna love you for that. That's his president, man. Coop loves Ulysses. That's
Um,
great.
The
That's
best.
funny.
then I'll take JFK because I feel like we'd have a hell of a night.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
shit.
I was named after JFK. Fun fact. That should have been my answer.
Nice. Stay out
No
of
shit.
Dallas. Don't go down Dallas.
Yeah, my mom loves the Kennedys.
All about that. That's a new one I never knew.
Are
Yeah.
you a big RFK guy? I didn't know
I thought about it. Thought about it. The early
Jack's on
phases,
his America Health kick right now. He's putting pull-up bars in all the airports we go
I liked a lot of his other ideas.
to.
Getting the food dyes out of food, you know, the au
Hey,
naturel.
we're all in agreement on that, man.
So, um, Jack, I asked this before. You don't have any siblings, right?
I have an older sister.
Okay. Was she Jackie or?
No, Natalie. I don't even know why they picked her name.
Oh, okay.
Portman.
I have no idea. Yeah. My mom
That's
loves
right.
Phantom Menace.
I thought it was a sister. I
She's
couldn't remember,
born
but I
after.
did. So, God, that would have been Jack and Jackie as brother and sister. That would have been fantastic. Um, that's cool. All right. Well, let's go into the next segment, which is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. So, Asylum can be more than just a state of mind. It can be a physical presence as well. And sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Um, Refuge. Refuge is more than a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Now, Garrison, Jack's answered this question a number of times, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. You know, this being your first PCA and this being Jack's 10th.
I don't know how many I've actually attended. I think I've only gone to 6 or
Okay.
5.
Oh, I have one up on you. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So since you've been to a number, and this was Garrison's first, what is your most memorable cigar smoking experience at PCA?
So I just have 1 year to reflect on.
What was your favorite
Yeah.
one this
Yeah.
year?
What was the moment for you this year, Garrison? And for Jack, you know, they could go back years, obviously, but what was the
Oh
moment this year?
man. Probably, I mean, anytime you smoke a Royal, that's a pretty big deal. So we did the pre-launch party at the little, what is that location where we did the Escurio launch at
Oh,
a decade ago?
the sugar mill.
The Sugar Mill, yeah. And so there was a group of us that we had went to dinner and then walked up there to go check it out. And Dane, shout out Dane, our Davidoff um, brand manager, he was generous enough to pass out some Royals for everybody to smoke. So
Oh shit.
we indulged in those and had good conversation and just kind of soaked in everything before the all the high intensity, high energy days started. So
Wow. Fantastic. Jack, what about
I
you?
my answer to this question, I think last time was I remember Joe Grow handing me like a Liga 10 and I smoked it while we interviewed Jonathan Drew. And that would have been the answer still, except for not this PCA, but last PCA in New Orleans. And I'm not just saying this because it's an Avo show. One of my favorite Avos ever was the LEO5, but like
Yeah.
the re-release in 2018. So one of our sales reps is not unlike you, Bear, where he kind of keeps log of every cigar that he has, and he has kept every whatever you name it. So I had mentioned to him like in a passing conversation like months prior, like, oh, LEO5 is on my like Mount Rushmore of cigars. He's like, oh yeah, the original. I was like, no, dude, I was born in 1993. Like, I didn't really have a shot at the '05 LE05.
Yeah.
So last year, Law and I had gone to dinner with our colleague Garrett Calhoun, who's an industry veteran and legend in and of its own right. And on our way back from dinner, we bump into Steve Saka. We're talking to Steve Saka for 3 hours. You could talk to Steve Saka for 23 hours.
Yeah,
We're
no
talking to
shit.
him for 3 hours and, just soaking in as many insights and information and stories and just having the greatest conversation. We get back to the hotel. It's the last night. So the next day is like the, half day at the show 2 years ago. And it's like 1:30 in the morning. You've smoked for a week. Your palate is gone. And he's like, hey, guys, you have to meet me. Go up to your room, drop off your thing, go to the bathroom. We're smoking a cigar. And Law and I were like, no, we don't want to. And he's like, I did not ask. I told you that this is what we're doing. And we're like, oh, and we like text each other, like, you're going back down. I was like, yeah, I'm very scared of Garrett Calhoun. I'm going back down, of course. And he hands me a LEO 5 from 2005, like no band,
Oh
nothing.
shit.
And I was like, dude,
You did
how
not tell
did
this
you?
story. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I was like, how is this happening? And I was like sad. I was like, I'm not even gonna be able to taste this cigar. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I smoked it, and it was one of the best cigars I've ever smoked in my entire life. Um, and I was like, this is just it just like moments like that kind of reinvigorate you. And funny enough, I was telling this last week, I was on a trip with Garrett Calhoun and Paul from the cigar shop Biloxi. And I'm telling the story about how great Garrett Calhoun is and how he gave me an LEO 5. He gave me another LEO 5. So this cigar that I never thought I'd be able to smoke in my entire life, I've gotten to enjoy twice because of his generosity. And the same, it's like on my Mount Rushmore of cigars, and to be able to share that moment with friends and colleagues and, those sort of things reinvigorate, your passion in the industry. And like, they're all just dried up leaves, but sometimes just the right moment and the right company just like is transcendental.
Burns
It's like
brighter,
this is
baby.
it burns brighter.
Paul has an incredible knack for that. It's insane. So I had the opportunity to spend time with him on the Davidoff trip of all places
Oh yeah.
back in 2018. And just talking to Paul, we're like hanging out in a pool, it's fucking Dominican, like, living the high life. And I'm like, Paul, you've been in retail for a long time. Like, what's the cigar that, like you gravitate towards a bunch and stuff? He's like, dude, the Schrader's. And I was like, Schrader's? What are you talking about? He's like, you've never heard of Schrader cigars? And I was like, no. What are you talking? It was this release, the Nat Sherman Dead. He said, man, I
Oh,
love that. I was like, I've never heard. What are you talking about? I've never even heard of this. Guy pops over. He's got his portable humidor. He pops one open and gives one to me. And I'm like, holy shit. He's like, yeah, they don't even make this anymore. I'm like, you're just gonna give this to me? He's like, yeah, man. Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. And I was like, holy shit. So that totally, and that's a great,
yeah, and
Paul
that's
connection.
just
Yeah.
like the generosity too. Like people will do. I've had people give me a cigar that they have like three of left, and we met 10 minutes ago. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know. Like, this doesn't have a street value because it doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
like, guys will do that.
Yeah. It's insane for
It's
sure.
crazy.
Garrison, what about you?
I think I just lost my ear.
Anyway, he's down for
got
a
it. I
moment.
got it.
There
I
we go.
got
There
it.
we
I
go.
got
There
Yeah,
we
it.
there
go.
you go.
What's the question? Just memorable smokes
Yeah,
or?
the most memorable smoke from PCA
Oh,
like
so I
last year.
did. So I had the Royal. The Royals was the
Oh,
one
that's
that I
right.
had
Yeah,
that.
okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but I will say that Calhoun was also generous enough when I spent a week with him last year that he also embarked me with the LEO 5,
This guy's got
and
LEO 5s falling
and
out of his.
he told a whole story about how he had to dig through his storage unit of a garage to find this box. And to this day, that is the only cigar that I have smoked down to the point where it was stinging my fingertips, and I was still trying
Uh,
to smoke it.
That's
That's how
beautiful.
good it is.
Awesome.
So and I feel like to also point out, I feel like in no other industry besides ours, Jackie mentioned that people actually share these things. I don't feel like in like whiskey and bourbon worlds, in the wine world, are people like giving away bottles like what we give away, like prestigious cigars in this industry, just to
Oh,
have somebody
1000%.
get to experience and taste that. It's something unique to our industry, and I love it, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, the equivalence is like someone popping open a bottle of wine or a bottle of bourbon and pouring you something
Right.
for something special, which is, I mean, don't want to take away from that experience. It's great, but yeah, like giving you the whole experience. And,
Yeah.
you can talk about well, it's portable, things like that. But like, yeah, it's different in that regard. Like to Jack's point, I could have three of something left, and Jack, you mentioned something, I'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm giving that to Jack.
Just
Are you
take
kidding
it.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want you
exactly.
to experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, this second to the last question, boys. This is our Everybody Eats segment brought to you by Pastani Cigars. If you always make sure your serving style is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pastani Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pastania, everybody eats. So we've been talking a lot about sophistication tonight, sophisticated pairings, spirits and coffee and mocktails, created by artisans and all that other stuff. But what is the most lowbrow meal that you have ever paid with a cigar, paired with a cigar? So lowbrow meal, and you can define that however you wish, but I know Jack's been to Nicaragua. He's probably had some shady meals from gas stations and stuff like that. But there's always fast food and brown bagging it, as they say. What is the most lowbrow meal that you have ever paired with a cigar?
Yeah, dude, mine's probably just like a hot dog, like a cheap grocery hot dog at like a bachelor party. We're just grilling dogs and I'm just ripping a stick and just so mine's probably not, it's probably pretty common in the cigar world that most people have paired a hot
It
dog with
still
that.
hits though, right? Yeah,
It
there's
absolutely is.
I mean, the amount of times that my coworkers and I have been at like Central Cigars and been smoking whatever Davidoff Limited XYZ and then ordered McDonald's,
Yeah.
Uber Eats.
Shout out JT.
Shout out JT. I mean, yeah, there will be some days where you'll get to try this or that, and then you're like, I've smoked like street value like $400 worth of cigars today, and I ate like $9 worth of
yeah,
food.
McMuffin. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Man, Garrison and I have definitely done that. So that we have a gas station that's a little bit more popular. I don't think it's very popular in Florida because you guys have like Wawa and stuff, but we have Quick
Yeah.
Trips out here in
Oh,
Texas.
I know. Yeah, QT.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got the hot dogs off the grill and stuff. I've definitely had they call them the roller meals,
Roller
like
dog.
the
Shout
roller
out
dogs. So
Linus and Tom.
Yeah.
yeah, I've definitely had a couple of roller meals for dinner, and then obviously paired with a cigar. That's
It's the
fantastic.
beautiful salinity of the pork and the way that
Right.
the bun just resets your palate. It just pairs beautifully with a cigar. It's amazing.
Perfect. Love it. All right, guys. Last question of the evening, which is always brought to you by our friends at Dunbar Tobacco and Trust. It is our curveball segments. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park. Count them up, guys. It's been 11 consecutive years in the consensus top three. Congratulations to our friend, Mr. Steve Saka. Will he make it 12 years? We all think so. All righty. Well, this is our curveball segment, get in. So this is hopefully completely out of left field. But wanted to have some fun with this. So this is obviously, not real, but I'm going to give you guys both $50 million. Here's the catch. You have to spend every dollar of it creating the most ridiculous, unnecessary attraction in the world. What are you creating? $50 million to create the most ridiculous, unnecessary attraction in the world. What are you doing?
A World Cup stadium.
Million or billion?
Million, 50 million.
Yeah, dude, you're not gonna 50 million. You're not gonna get the seats done.
I'm gonna build another high rise in
Yeah,
Manhattan to
I'm
get
gonna
10 floors.
I'm gonna start a golf league.
There you go. Now we're getting somewhere.
Like
What is
roadside
it?
attraction?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I had some other stipulations on it, but you guys are on the right track. It cannot make money and it
Okay.
serves no practical purpose.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
This is a great cigar industry question because that's kind of our whole game. You can't make money and it can't be practical. I mean, I got to work on my Avo brain, but my first thought there was just like the world's largest scorpion. So I
There you
was kind of
go.
thinking like when you come into the Denver airport, there's this
The
gigantic
horse.
blue horse. I'm like, let's get that. Let's put it in Don Lee, and it's going to be like a gigantic scorpion that shoots fire out of its claws. And nobody will be able to get there because it's not the greatest, like it's not that easy to get there. But that would be a very Camacho answer.
Awesome. What color is it going to be? Blue, black? What are we
Black. It's
doing?
got to be
Black.
black.
It's got a black
Red eyes,
scorpion.
just piercing eyes, and then just like whenever the last roller leaves the factory, it shoots fire out of its claws.
That's pretty sick, actually.
I think that's worth 50 million at least for sure.
I mean, it'll probably actually cost 10, but you'll get the rest of the 40 stolen by the contractors and local government. They're perfect.
They'll go into
DoD contract.
I'll go into butane costs to light up the fire. The fire
Yeah,
coming out of the
exactly right.
glass.
Nice. I would do like an Arlington style cemetery for fallen soldier cigars that people didn't want to finish.
Oh,
want,
there
like,
you go.
I want like full tombstone, manicured grass, an eternal tomb with a flame that never extinguishes. And 50 million is going to pay for its upkeep.
Or
You
like
can come
unreleased brands, like brands that just
visit.
we thought better of.
You
Or
can
like
pay your respects.
the tomb of the FDA release that actually never came out, but we just had to.
There you go.
There's thousands
It's
of
a
them that just
national
had to be
landmark.
created.
Dude, this thing's got legs, man. Now we're
That's
all
pretty good.
cooking. We're all cooking
And the
with gas on
scorpions at the
this.
front of it.
There we go.
Scorpions the
Exactly.
guard. That might send the wrong message, but I like it nonetheless.
Pretty
Awesome.
sick.
Well, guys, thank you
You
so
work in
much.
marketing.
This was a fun evening. Always a great conversation. Thank you so much for both of you guys for joining me.
You're the best.
So
Thank
Sunday
you, sir.
night, Jack, I know you just recently got married, and Garrison, I know you'd rather be spending time with your fiance as you guys prepare for your nuptials.
She's
and everything.
asleep.
So,
We're good.
yeah,
Yay.
but I know Sunday nights for families, and I always thank my guests for this, and I really appreciate you both. Jax doesn't get the Sunday scaries anymore. I know he still gets tired, but hopefully that's what the caffeine's for. And pick you guys up on a Monday morning, and thank you so much for staying up late with me. And it means the world to me. So thank you both very, very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Bear.
It's an honor.
Guys, thank you. Thanks to our audience as well for staying up late with us. We appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. We broadcast live almost every Sunday night on Facebook at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. And then we rebroadcast later on our YouTube channel as well. Our video broadcast is always courtesy of our friends at Foundation Cigars. Foundation Cigars, Nick Melillo is a well-known cigar maker in the premium cigar industry. He is the founder and owner of Foundation Cigars, which produces a range of high-quality, handcrafted cigars. His values include quality, consistency, balance, and flavor. Check out foundationcigars.com today. And if you are taking a listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, our audio broadcast is courtesy of our friends at Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. Thanks to our good friends at Gran Habano. And when I say review, guys, I do appreciate those reviews. Look, 5 stars are great, but 1 stars need to be constructive. So to the guy who left me a 1-star review and said that my audio levels suck, thank you very much. Hopefully you're still listening. Hopefully you can hear me now. Do appreciate that. But to the guy who left me a 1-star review and left it blank, as I tell you every week, man, fuck you. Got nothing for you. Can't help you. But in all sincerity, we do appreciate all of our sponsors and everyone that makes this show possible, including our good friends at Alec Bradley. My name's Bear Duplessis. He's Garrison Davis. He's Jack Heyer. They are both of Davidoff of Geneva and AVO Cigars. Thanks to our good friends at Alec Bradley. I am Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. And guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.